Okay, hi everyone. My name is Ivan, and in the past years I was organizing this wonderful conference, so I hope everyone is having fun. Today I'm on stage moderating this little panel, and I hope everyone had enough food, that you're enjoying Split, and that you are sober enough to enjoy this conversation. So to begin with, a little short of introduction, starting from Belma.
Thank you, Ivan. Happy to be here. This year more on the participating side than organizing, but always happy to be back in Split. I'm Belma. I'm currently working as VP of Engineering at Chainsafe. Chainsafe is a Web3 company that's building Web3 infrastructure. Among some of the things are cross-chain bridges, protocols, and many other things.
Hi everyone, I'm Mislav. A lot of you probably already know that. One fun tidbit, I think this is the 5th time I'm speaking at BlockSplit, so this is a very fond conference to me. You might know me from some other roles, but right now I am the co-founder and CEO at Klaster, which is a chain abstraction protocol that we're kind of sort of building in stealth mode right now, but I think in a few months you're going to be hearing much more about it. So that's going to be it for now, just a small teaser. You have a mic. Okay.
I wonder how is it in stealth mode. Hey everyone, my name is Ahmed Al-Balaghi. I'm one of the co-founders at Biconomy. This is my first time in Split and first time here at this conference, so I'm very excited to be here and sort of check out the community. We've been around for the past 5 years, solely focusing on empowering developers to achieve seamless Web3 experiences, and essentially I'd say at least growing and transitioning the world to going on chain. A lot of what we do now is a full stack account abstraction solution for wallets, applications, and chains.
Thank you, everyone. So while I was outside waiting for this to start, some people came up to me and asked me, like, what is account abstraction? So before we get super deep into this, given that you are one of the leaders in this space, can you please give us a quick rundown of what it actually is?
Yeah, without going too into the specifics, essentially account abstraction was born with the context of basically separating validation, like signature validation from execution. And that's why it was introduced, so that essentially users have different ways to authorize as well as give programmable, at least give programmability towards the execution of transactions. We'll definitely go into sort of the use cases and what it means. But that's I'd say one technical way of understanding account abstraction. I would say another more broader element is account abstraction is essentially anything that would in a way hide or at least remove complexities away from sort of Web3 users or using Web3. And so account abstraction, I'd say, has been around for a very long time. It's just been coming in different forms. So that's sort of another way I'd like to think about it, account abstraction as well.
Thank you. So, Mislav, what are the challenges of using an EOA like MetaMask? So, Ahmed just said that they're trying to hide away these complexities. So, can you please give us a quick rundown on what are these complexities but what are also the advantages of using EOAs?
So, I assume a lot of you have had the experience, if you're been long enough in Web3, the experience of trying to onboard a friend or a colleague to crypto, but not just opening a Coinbase account for them, just actually onboarding them to self-custodial crypto. And I can almost be certain that it wasn't easy for you. You had to get them to install MetaMask, you had to get them to understand what a private key is, understand then what gas is, what is gas prices, how do you do all of these things? And so these are things that we take for granted in the Web3 space. So we take it for granted that, yes, I do have to store my seed phrase. Yes, I do have to, so I'm sending USDC, but I have to get ETH to send USDC. I don't think we even realize how weird that sounds to a normal person to do something like this. So those are the challenges of EOAs. EOAs were built as first-class citizens that were solving a consensus problem for smart contract blockchains in 2013, when this was a very novel thing. And nobody was thinking about, I mean, people were thinking, but nobody was thinking of implementing it in a simpler way, because it was just, why are we having gas? Because Ethereum is a Turing complete blockchain, and if you didn't have gas, you would have infinite loops that would drain the miners. So the entire design, thinking, and architecture when EOAs were built was built on this premise of, let's just get it to work. Now that we've onboarded people and that more and more people are using blockchains, we come to the realization that using gas is unacceptable. Being forced to store seed phrases is unacceptable. A lot of these things that we take for granted are just unacceptable for growth. And that's the drawbacks. Now, you ask me for benefits. I guess one benefit is that it works with all the dApps. So, but that, I wouldn't call it like a design benefit of EOAs. This is just the ecosystem support. Right now, if you have a smart account wallet, a lot of dApps will act weird. Like we tried building some gasless wallets, so a lot of dApps will just like hide the execute button if you don't have enough gas, even though our system could execute that transaction. They'll just gray out the button on the front end because they assume you can't do it. So right now, like big benefit of EOAs is compatibility, but beyond that, I see absolutely zero benefit.
So smart accounts are, at the moment as they exist, are not really backwards compatible. Is that the biggest drawback?
Yes, I would say yes.
Would you guys agree? Yes?
I mean, I would say that's the only drawback. I guess there are many more of them. I mean, smart accounts and account abstraction in general is kind of still the problem that we have. Like, we use the term, but like we still don't know like what's the ideal user experience. There are many drawbacks in terms of like security, implementation, and how it affects the protocol. Like, how do we enforce like future compatibility as well, and how do we also make sure that whatever we introduce now doesn't kick us back later in the future. So it's kind of a both back end compatibility and future compatibility as well.
Ahmed, do you want to say something on that? I see you fidgeting a bit. So.
I would just say one thing that, you know, if you guys would sort of take away anything as well from this, and something that I've been thinking about a lot, is that I really truly believe that account abstraction is for everyone. It's not just for newbies. It's for us. We need it a lot. I have so many accounts, so many like random ETH, God knows where, that, you know, I just ideally would want to, you know, batch these things together, use them in very simple ways. You know, I would say that account abstraction has to also benefit like actual Web3 users, because we could actually do a lot more. When you remove friction, you expand markets. If you allow people, especially people like us, we would happily spend $50 on gas fees if we really want to do something, right? Like, we would do that. And we have a higher purchasing power when we're dealing with USDC versus actual USD, right? Like, it's easy to spend $100 of USDC on chain than it is to spend $100 in cash. Imagine if things were made so simple in whatever we're doing, degenning, anything like that, there'd be so much more activity from power users like us. And of course, you know, we all know that it will benefit like the noobs and the newcomers to Web3. So I think account abstraction, just generally smart accounts, is for everyone, because it sort of really does empower so many things.
Okay, so for this grand vision to actually become a reality, a lot more standards need to be implemented. So Belma, can you please give us a little bit of an overview of these EIPs that are coming along?
Do we have an hour or so?
No, let's keep it short, but let's just, quick rundown.
Yeah, quick run. So I think the kind of the biggest kind of leap into the account abstraction was the standard 4337, if I remember the numbers correctly, and then just kind of many more started coming in. Because once we kind of introduced a way, like how to kind of handle in a standardized way, like sponsor transactions, like gasless transactions, how do we like create all these user operations? So turning EOA into smart accounts, it's just kind of created a lot more questions because everyone turned like creating solutions on their own. Right now, I think it's like really hard for a dApp developer to go and implement something, any kind of account abstraction solution, because it's just kind of how all of them are different. So, for example, if I'm a user and I kind of come in and make an account on using AA solution, whatever dApp, then I go to another dApp, I'll probably get another account. So we still, again, are getting into this fragmentation problem. So there are like new standards that are kind of tackling the initial ideas and changing the way it works. I'm not sure if it makes sense to go one by one and kind of compare. As I said, I think that's another presentation, but the biggest thing is agreeing where the account abstraction should live. So where that abstraction is it application layer or is it protocol layer? I think with some of the latest proposals and EIPs made in this month, last month, I don't know, are also suggesting some of the protocol level changes and introducing new transaction types. So we still have yet to see like what that means for security implications, but it's kind of very, very interesting to see how it all develops. And then taking into account that there should be like cross-chain standards as well, it just makes the whole picture much more complex, and it will take some time to kind of solve it. But that's why those EIPs are very, very important, because one by one, we're kind of getting to better solutions. So we drop one EIP, we get to the second one.
Or Vitalik writes one in like 30 minutes and then crushes everyone's dreams. This is a question for Ahmed. So how is oh, you wanted to say something?
No, I just just a small tidbit. I think two types of standards can be seen as appearing. So ones are when 4337. So 4337 was the standard that defined how a smart contract account would look like and how it would execute. Now there's a lot of standards that are upgrading 4337, adding like modules, which are, if you want to have passkey logins, if you want to have multi-sigs, if you want to have, I don't know, spending limits, like I can spend $1,000 a day with one signature, 10,000 with two or whatever. So these are all now getting implemented as like plugin systems for Ethereum accounts. And then there is another category, which is how do we migrate existing EOA users? And these are standards like 3074 and this one 702, was it? Yeah. Yeah. So basically, first one is let's make a robust account abstraction stack. And then second is let's make a simple way to migrate existing EOA users onto that stack. So that was just my addition to this. Yeah.
There is a third. So I was just on Slack, like you guys saw me on my phone, right? There's at least 4 additional ERCs, new ones in the form of, we don't need to get into them, but the first one started like ERC 5792. It's been built by the Coinbase team with Wallet Connect and a few others. We're kind of like somewhat like just checking it out, seeing if it makes sense. But then there's ERC 7677 for paymasters, and there's like another 2 more for specific use cases. So this is a very big rabbit hole, and it's you know still going to take some time to figure out, to be honest.
Okay, so how is AA different from native AA?
Yeah.
So what does that even mean?
Yeah. So right now, account abstraction, as we know it, is in ERC, or at least ERC 437. This is a standard on top of the protocol, and essentially you don't need any protocol changes to enable account abstraction. Native account abstraction basically means smart accounts would become first-class citizens, because there now would then be like an actual protocol change. or there'd be a hard fork to actually enable account abstraction. And so this basically means smart accounts become first-class citizens, paymasters will become like just way easier to use, and bundlers just become nodes, right? So essentially what we have is account abstraction with ERC 437 is all this like infra that's needed. And then you'd have basically less infrastructure that's needed when it becomes native. And we're seeing some, of course, Starknet, ZK Sync have native account abstraction, although they're different. There are some subtle differences between the two. And there is this RIP called 7560, I believe, which is trying to basically push native account abstraction to rollups. But that spec still hasn't been finalized. And I'd say like once that gets finalized, then we'd see like a lot of rapid adoption, because I think a lot of people are waiting for that. A lot of new chains, a lot of rollups are waiting for that.
So regarding the market, given that Biconomy processed like what, over 10 million user ops in the past, how many years, or was that just like quarter? Oh, in the last year.
Okay. Last year, yeah.
So over 10 million user ops in the last year. So what is your prediction for the AA market? What are the trends that are currently, hyped?
Yeah, I would say it's a good question. I would say right now there's a lot of, and this is a conversation I think we had outside, like there's a lot of applications, especially consumer apps, that are using embedded wallet providers like Privy, Web3 Auth, whoever, and needing and wanting AA, so the smart account to represent the user's account. So that's something that we're seeing. We're seeing also growing trend from, how I mentioned these like differing ERCs. Now the biggest problem with account abstraction today is that everyone in a way gets locked in. So if you use Biconomy, you're at least locked into the smart account. And there's all this sort of SDKs that people have to integrate. The cool thing about ERC 7677 is that you essentially could just, it's basically a paymaster service where it doesn't sort of lock in developers into how they could use account abstraction. So I think that's going to be another growing trend, because I also believe that there should be free ways for how developers should integrate. You wouldn't necessarily need to be forced to be locked into a solution provider. Ideally, you're with the solution provider because they are the best provider, right? So that's something that we're seeing that's growing as well. And we're seeing way more chains, like a lot of chains. We've integrated 25 plus chains, and there's more in the pipeline that are enabling account abstraction and want this as part of their chain infrastructure. So these are like a couple of things that we're seeing.
I got a quick question for Belma regarding Chainsafe and the market they're targeting. So before this panel, we were having lunch, and you mentioned the gaming market. So can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, we worked a lot with gaming studios and having games use wallets in whatever way they want. And yeah, in gaming, like you definitely don't want to see your MetaMask pop-up go every second on the screen. So there were different solutions on like how to solve that. So like with gaming in specific, I think less is about security. It's more about like UX itself and having things like session keys that some of these standards also propose is definitely a good thing. Another thing that I would love to mention in the same kind of a world, in the same kind of a system related to gaming, is different chains. So far, it has been really hard to. I mean, cross-chain gaming is not yet a thing, but when using like different, let's say NFTs or something like that, it definitely becomes much harder to use things that are on different networks. So things like network abstraction also comes in, which is kind of super important, because ultimately the ideal UX there is I just have an asset, I just have hundreds of whatever tokens, and the infrastructure should be the one that kind of figures out the best way to send those assets on whatever network. Sometimes this can be hopping through multiple L2s, cheaper than just going directly to mainnet. So infrastructure is the one that should solve that. So yeah, that's also one of the things that we're focusing and building. Because, yeah, ultimately, we should really make it easier for even both beginners and for us, as Ahmed said, to use those things. Just kind of, last week, like, I was supposed to like pay something in person for a book, whatever. And the guy was like, oh, we receive Optimism, Arbitrum. So you can send there. I was like, sure, whatever, anything works. I'm pretty sure I have like 50 USD on some of those chains. And I was like, MetaMask Mobile, Trust Wallet. It's like, wait, I can't switch the change to any L2. So it's just kind of a ridiculous knowing where your assets are. But yeah, getting back to gaming, we definitely don't want pop-ups there inside the games, and we don't want fragmentation as well. So if I'm playing on one game, I want to use the same account as another one, and I don't want NFTs or other assets on different accounts. That's just additional hassle, and ultimately, I don't care which network.
I got a question for Mislav. So earlier in the conversation, we mentioned embedded wallets, we mentioned some smart accounts. So clearly there are subdivisions when it comes to these wallets. So can you give us a quick explanation of it?
Right, so we can make a distinction between embedded wallets and global wallets. Let's say, I think that should be a fair way to split them. So your global wallet is something most of you are probably used to. It's like this address where all of your funds are, and then you connect this address to various applications, and then you give various types of permissions to various applications to use those assets in some way. So you all know about the approve flow on ERC20 assets. So basically that would be your global wallet. It's the one wallet that you use on Uniswap, Aave, Compound, Yearn, wherever you go, you connect your wallet. Now an embedded wallet is the complete opposite of that, which is a wallet, an address. Let's call it an address, not a wallet. It's an address that is specific to a single application. So what it does is, let's say, Ahmed mentioned some of the providers like Privy or Dynamic or Web3 Auth. Basically, an application integrates the SDK of this embedded wallet provider. And then basically this, when you click connect or sign in with Google or sign in with phone number or sign in with whatever, the embedded wallet provider creates a new address in the background, a new wallet, new private public key pair, which is then used for that application only. Now, embedded wallets have a lot of benefits. For apps, it's definitely good that they can capture their users inside their app, and then the assets that are on that address basically belong to that app, and then the app is able to, provide additional features to the user so that the user can, get some yield, leverage something, and that's good. And also, like, the user experience benefit can be quite nice, especially if embedded wallets are paired with account abstraction. Then you can have this like one-click logins, gasless experiences, where basically the apps almost look like Web 2 apps to the user. But it comes with a trade-off of fragmentation. So essentially, every new app that you use, and I think this is something Belma touched on earlier, every new app that you use has a separate address, separate assets, separate everything, and then like migrating things between those apps is not the best. So I think there are quite interesting ways to solve this, but right now, as it stands, there is this trade-off between user experience and fragmentation. Maybe not user experience, but between those things.
Okay, so a question for Ahmed. Clearly there are a lot of these embedded wallets being used out in the wild, on the market. So which is the most popular dApp that is using these smart accounts?
Which is the most popular dApp?
Well, yeah. What are the most popular dApps that are utilizing this technology?
Yeah, so I'd say like a couple come to mind. We recently worked with Animoca.com and Chess.com. They basically built a game together called AnyChess. It's basically a Web3 game. Well, it's basically a chess game that has some wizardry in it and some magic in it. But the reason why they're building this on blockchain rails is so that they could enable and provide NFTs for their gamers and their user base. And so here they used Web3 Auth, for example, as an embedded wallet provider. And what's funny is that when I asked them about the stats for how many, because they basically allowed users to come in either via email or MetaMask or Coinbase Wallet or what have you. And it's funny, like the percentage was like 60% MetaMask or something crazy like that, which is really weird, right? And so the question is like, okay, how many people are actually using embedded wallets or actually signing in via email? And so that was interesting. So these guys, we've done over like 450,000 accounts for them, have sort of processed over, like, I'd say they're the biggest one in terms of like transactions, user base. Another one which is like super interesting is Alpha Friends. This is basically built on Base and on top of Farcaster. And they're using Privy for authenticating via Farcaster ID, basically, right? And so if a user comes in, you need to have a Farcaster account, and that's really how users authenticate themselves. And I would say like this application has been our biggest one on Base, where essentially degen is actually being used as a form of gas on Base, which is really cool. And I think right now it's around like 200 ETH worth of degen has been used to pay for gas.
Wow. So earlier, also outside in the lobby, someone asked me, okay, I've heard about account abstraction. Is that the same thing as network abstraction? So this is maybe a question for Mislav. So what exactly is network abstraction, and how does account abstraction fit into this whole, like the grand scheme of things? Just to kind of zoom out from the whole market thing that we were just talking about.
Yeah. I think that this touches upon from the beginning of the panel when Ahmed said that the goal of account abstraction is to reduce complexities of using the blockchain. Network abstraction is just taking this one step further. So account abstraction, let's go through a list of things that you don't want to do. It's probably the easiest to do it like that. So you don't want to have separate assets to pay for gas. If you're sending USDC, you would really prefer that you are able to pay for this transaction fee in USDC. So that's account abstraction solves this. Then, for example, you might want to use, you really don't want to store your seed phrases. You want to have either professional recovery solutions or social recovery solutions. So account abstraction solves this. Then some third thing you might not be so keen on is the ability to single transaction send everything I own. Yes, I'm 100% sure. Completely, definitely drain my wallet. So this is something that account abstraction can again prevent with like spending limits and certain multi-sig applications, locks and things like this. So this is like our initial part of the stack where we're starting with things that we don't want to do. Now, when we go a little bit lower on that stack, one thing that we really also don't want to do is switch networks. And I think this is something that Belma mentioned earlier. It's, yeah, I have these funds. I have $50, but I have it on Optimism and I need it on, I don't know, Base. Why should I not be able to use it on Base? I mean, obviously the answer is technically in the background, I need to synchronize the state between blockchains. But even the fact that this information is communicated to me as a user, you have some funds on some blockchain, but you can't use them on a different blockchain. It just introduces this step that I'm not doing this step because I want to do it. I'm doing this step because I have to do it. So, and I think every time this I think is a lesson to everyone who is building applications, not only in blockchain, but everywhere. Every time you see something like this, where a user is doing something because they have to, not because they want to, this is probably a step that you can optimize. And chain abstraction or network abstraction, however you want to call it, is solving for this issue. So imagine an application, and I think this is a really good case to explain network abstraction. Who of you has heard of Aave? So yeah, basically almost everyone. So Aave provides 15 lending markets on 15 different blockchains. Certain markets have higher yields, certain markets have lower yields. When you're borrowing, certain markets have higher interest rates, certain markets have lower interest rates. But if I have my funds, let's say, on Optimism, but the best market for yields right now is on Binance Smart Chain, I don't know, then I would have to unwind my position on Optimism, bridge the assets to Binance Smart Chain, then supply it to Binance Smart Chain just to get it. And if I'm trying to borrow money, let's say I have some collateral ETH on Polygon, but the best, lowest, lowest interest rate is on Optimism. Again, I have to bridge my ETH from Polygon to Optimism, then I have to supply it, etc., etc. So imagine a different world where this looks completely differently, where you see a lending and borrowing app. There is no blockchain mentioned anywhere at all. Like no connect with this blockchain, switch this network, use this network. There is USDC. And I have 100 USDC. I don't care which blockchain that those 100 USDC are on, and I don't care which blockchain the lending market is deployed on. All I know is that I want to use my 100 USDC to borrow some, or I want to use my ETH to borrow some USDC so that I can buy more ETH, so I can open like a leverage trade position. So this is something that chain abstraction is going to enable. And this is something that you're going to see very, very soon, probably like a month or two. So this is the user experiences that we want to enable to our customers. And these are the user experiences that are going to reduce friction and bring, I don't want to say the next billion. I don't want to be the guy that says the next billion on a conference. But they're going to bring a certain amount of new users, and yeah, what Ahmed said, like reducing friction expands markets, and that I think that's always been the case.
I think Belma wanted to say something. When you said in the next month or two, she went like this. So Belma.
Yeah.
I think you wanted to introduce alpha here, maybe. I don't know. But I think, definitely such solutions are being made. I mean, I can fair to say that we're building MVP as well within Chainsafe for network abstraction. But anyhow, like the biggest problem will still be to kind of get all of us kind of working on standards that are also supported cross-chain, so CAIPs, that also exists, and just rolling that out kind of collectively and just kind of really helping users kind of deal with all of that is also important. Not users, but more app developers.
Okay, so in short, essentially what abstraction is giving users simple UX, right?
Yes.
Would you agree, guys? Yeah. Yeah, so we just spent like 30 minutes. We could have said that at the beginning. I'm just kidding, but so essentially that's what it is, right?
Yeah, well, one other thing is also abstraction for developers. So one thing I've been thinking about quite a lot is, and this has been sort of like integrating with dApps, is that dApps are doing a lot of work to integrate, which is probably not the right approach. So for example, let's do a bit of let's brainstorm a bit. So if, like we mentioned, ERC20 tokens, paying in ERC20 tokens, right, is one of the main features of account abstraction. Should this be integrated by a dApp developer or a wallet? Who thinks it should be done by a dApp developer? Okay, one person. Who thinks it should be done by a wallet? Okay, batch transactions. Should it be done by a wallet or should it be done by an app? By a wallet. Should it be done by a wallet? Batch transactions? Okay, should it be done by a dApp? Okay. In my opinion, I say a bit of both. What about recovery? Is it done by a wallet or by a dApp? Right? It's pretty clear that's probably done by a wallet. My point is that I'm actually writing an article on this. It's basically like thinking about what are the things that would enable a uniform UX. Right? Like right now, the uniform UX or the status quo is that wallet developers could only do so much with the EOAs. And then dApps have to kind of do everything themselves. But what if wallets all had the capabilities of what we have? And all they have to do is basically not just pick and choose, they could just curate their own UX on top, right? So if they know the wallet supports ERC20 tokens, they support permissions, they support batch transactions, they support recovery, they would essentially have a different stack to work with and could basically curate that better UX. And so then it's up to the dApp developer to basically sort of just curate whatever they want to, and I think that's what's powerful, and it's sort of abstracting all of that from developers. Like chain abstraction, should that be done at the wallet level or the dApp level? dApp level, guys, should it be at dApp level, or what about wallet level? More on the wallet level, yeah. So it's interesting, like that's the thing, like account abstraction provides all these things, but not every dApp needs it. And that's the reality, and it's like we kind of probably have to go down a route where, you know, wallets play ball on this and dApps play ball with that.
We have a couple of minutes left, so does anyone have any questions for this really knowledgeable crew here on the stage?
Is this working? Yeah. Thanks for the great panel. So I guess question for everyone here, like EOAs have the same address on all chains by default, right? That's something that's handled on the protocol level. And I think the users are used to this fact. They don't have to do extra steps or be extra careful. Like there is a new chain, I can just interact and I'm good. So how do smart accounts fit into this assumption of users? Is there a way to achieve something similar? How is this being planned for in the future, I guess?
I'm very glad that this anonymous audience member has asked this question. Smart accounts can, but don't have to have the same address on multiple chains. It depends on how you deploy them. I am of the opinion that they should have the same address on multiple chains, but for example, a notable dissent from that opinion is Safe, who have been quite against having safes deployed on the same address on multiple blockchains for reasons I think you might know, because I think Marin told me something that...
I'm not sure if it's safe specifically, but you can get different accounts if you're using different curves. So if you're using like secure enclaves and passkeys compared to you'll use different curves, so you'll get different account. So this is something that's also one of the standards. I mean, happily worked on that. The discovery problem kind of proposes to tackle 7555 if everyone is interested. So you know, we kind of make sure that we get same accounts per domain. So yeah, currently all networks with EOAs, but the problem is like different domains. So different website could possibly give you different accounts. So there is a potential solution for that as well.
I think we had a question over there.
Hi. So I'm curious so once all of these EIPs are figured out, once all these questions that you said are still kind of being figured out are all done, like what is the ultimate vision from the user perspective? How does opening an account look? So Mislav mentioned these embedded wallets. I understand this is done like within the app. But how is a new wallet, how does the experience of opening, creating a new wallet, so someone joining crypto, how does that look? And like I assume there's this recovery function, so this is why seed phrase is not needed. I'm not sure how this is solved, but also another layer to my question, I think people there will be a subset of like early crypto natives who are just not going to want to use it. I'm probably including myself here. So how do you see this like developing once it's out? And how is it going to look, ideally, like a dream scenario for a new person joining crypto? Thank you.
Who wants to answer?
The question is, does anyone really know the answer? I think beginning of the year, I mean, including Ethereum core devs and everyone kind of working on different protocols, we're asking the question, you know, what's the ideal UX? Like, okay, we're at this stage now, and we can plan ahead, like, but how do we want the things to look like? And that was hard to answer. I'm not sure if the community agreed on one answer, but it's kind of summarizing what we're talking today. Ideally, we want to make things easier for users, either existing or newcomers. So they have maybe a single sign-on that they can use. They have recovery, they have option to kind of have provider wallet, whatever, pay for the gas. So make all that flow easy enough, but also for app developers, when they're making a dApp, they have a clear UX that they can take. Because if I would go and develop a dApp today, it would be very hard to me to research all the existing solutions, check out all the SDKs, how to support different SDKs and all of these different solutions. So ideally for them, it's also just knowing what needs to be done, what are the capabilities that other wallets support, and just kind of checking the checkboxes on what the dApp needs, and automatically then supporting those wallets as well.
Did you go on? No, yeah, just quickly to answer your question. So unfortunately, I have to say it depends, because if you're a wallet, so the three ways users typically are onboarded. They go to MetaMask or Rabby or what have you. The second way is they use an embedded wallet, and that social sort of sign-on. And right now, these are all going to global accounts, like Mislav mentioned. So if I'm a user, I'm using Privy. I could at one point, I think they're launching it soon. You could basically have a global account, and you'd see all your assets across all these different apps, right? That's number two. Number three is app-specific wallets. There are a lot of games and there are a lot of apps. They've just built their own wallet. They're like, we don't care about the ecosystem. If you want to use my app, you have to use my wallet, right? I think Gunzilla is just a recent example from the top of my head, where I don't know if it's custodial or not, but it's they don't allow you to connect with anything else. It's their wallet. So it really honestly depends on the builder, the company, but ultimately the ideal UX for me is all about freedom. It's all about the user having all the choice in the world, right? They're able to recover their account, or they're able to take their account elsewhere and have it placed elsewhere. But this is where I think the UX could be okay, the wallet is intelligent enough to make some decisions that I don't want. For example, bridge using a cross because it's the cheapest thing. I would happily give that power to a wallet or a dApp, right? But there is a simple advanced button. If I go on advanced and I select those preferences, then great. I would want that advanced, but not a billion users will not use the advanced setting. That's just the reality. And so I think there should be this assumptions based on the user that this is what they're okay with, and they have the option to exit. There has to be an exit path.
Okay, and on that note, we'll have to end this panel discussion because the time is up, and it's been up for the past 5 minutes. So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you, Mislav, and thank you, Belma.